Tyrese Haliburton left tonight's game versus the Celtics with some left leg soreness that has now been reported as a hamstring injury that we believe occurred on this play. And in this video, we'll talk about what exactly might have happened here and just how severe this may or may not be. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach you about the medical side of the sports world. Now, we've had at least one prominent instance of what was reported as hamstring soreness turn into a prolonged hamstring injury with what we saw with the New York Knicks OG Anunoby. So this initial reporting about just leg soreness that then turned into the hamstring concern could always be more of a true strain, because when we hear soreness, that implies that something has actually been damaged in the muscle. So just hearing soreness, we have to think about a possible tear, which is a strain. This was the play where it looks like this occurred. This was at about 6 minutes in the third quarter, and Haliburton actually continued to play for another 3.5 minutes after this occurred. So here he's trying to guard Tatum. As he moves lateral out to his right side, we see Haliburton extend that left leg out in front of him. And right in this position, we've got a trunk that's a little bit forward flexed. Of course, his hip is brought up into a little bit of hip flexion as well. That's going to put some degree of tension on his hamstring. And because he's trying to slow down, he's trying to use that left leg to sort of stabilize his body. This looks to be the moment when there was some excess strain or potentially stress on that hamstring, where we can see a little bit of a grimace as he then steps backward. Now, this doesn't look to be an overly aggressive, this isn't like the very first time we saw Haliburton injure this left hamstring, where it was a big, very awkward, he kind of went into the splits on the floor. This looks honestly like a much more benign, truly maybe just aggravation of that hamstring rather than a really excessive stretch or significant sprinting type of pull like we saw with Anunoby. But in this position, yes, there's some extra stress on that hamstring as it's being stretched with the hip up in flexion, trunk brought forward, ischial tuberosity is right here, so that hamstring is going to be stretched. As he's trying to slow down, he's then trying to go back to his left side. He then pushes off on that stretched hamstring, so very well could have been when there was some additional pull or irritation of that hamstring muscle. Now, like I said, Haliburton continued to play. We didn't see him grab at the hamstring. He actually took the inbounds pass after this play, sprinted up the court really well, and then when we saw him come out of the game with about 3.5 minutes in the third quarter, he just sat on the bench. He didn't even get looked at by the medical staff. When he got up from the bench at the start of the fourth quarter into the third, that's when we actually saw him limping back to the locker room. So overall, I'll admit I don't have that high of a level of concern, just because, number one, we saw him continue to play to some degree. When someone's got a bad enough hamstring strain like we saw with OG Anunoby, Haliburton initially, they're not going to be able to continue sprinting and running up and down the court for 2.5 minutes. Especially if they then come out of the game, they're going to go get looked at right away. So this does seem to me like something that doesn't seem as significant as what we've seen with other hamstring injuries. If this is a true strain, a tear, I'm hopeful that it's just a very mild grade 1 and not something that would keep Haliburton out for a long time. Again, mainly because we saw him run up and down the court afterwards and then sit on the bench for 3.5 minutes of game time before getting up at the end of the third quarter. Yes, when you're trying to come back from a hamstring strain, that site of injury, depending on how long it's been, is it more risk of a repeat injury because it might not be good, healthy muscle tissue. It could be some scar tissue. So this could potentially be a re-aggravation of what was there before, but I'm hopeful that we're not dealing with any significant prolonged absence for Haliburton. That's it for the video, everybody. Let me know, as always, any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.